Hello everyone and welcome to the Intimate Talks interview series. I'm Asi Efros and our special guest today is Taurat Hossain, a fashion editorial photographer with his own recognizable and very unique artistic style. Hi Taurat, how are you? So nice to have you with us today.
Yeah, hey Asi, thanks for letting me do this and thanks for the invite. This is awesome. Everybody's got all this like spiel that they're saying, but for the most part, they're not really giving you much. It's not like they're giving you the secret sauce, because to be honest, there is really no secret sauce. It's just the sauce is you. You are the sauce. You just have to make people have a palate for it. That's really it.
Okay, so I wonder if your upbringing played a role in your work. Has it?
Yeah, so my upbringing is non-traditional. I didn't come from an artist background. I grew up, in New York, and I also grew up in Los Angeles, so I know both coasts extremely well. My upbringing was with a single mom, and frankly, it was me, my brother, my two sisters, and I, and we didn't have like an artist vibe. That wasn't, it was survival. We were in survivor mode, not necessarily artists, right? And being a product of immigrants, I don't think, the artist life is natural. It's something that we gravitate towards. I think most immigrants can resonate with that. We have to go pursue a real job or a real career and all these other things. So for me, it was survival mode. But then also, like, as you're in survival mode, you also have to figure out what else makes living worth it. Like being alive, right? Like, what is it else that makes life worth it? You can't just have your accounting job or your medical job or your whatever bookkeeping job. There has to be more to life than just that, right? And for me, it was the arts. I went to a performing arts school in high school, and I was surrounded by the entire spectrum of kids. It was everything from, LGBTQ rights, advocacy groups, to other artists, to theater kids, to a band person. And I was involved with the entire spectrum, including the jocks. So it allowed me to, I think, have an appreciation for arts from an early age, but also be curious about it and be around people that allowed me to ask the questions that, why do you do what you do? For me, because of my background, I think, you don't have an option to fail, or you don't have an option to just be complacent. You have to take 1,000 no's before you get the yes. And I think it's just, unfortunately, that is the life. A lot of it is knocking on doors and hearing, you don't have enough followers. You don't have enough of a portfolio. You don't have a book. You aren't, you don't know this person. You don't know that person. And a lot of our industry, to be honest, is 2-3 degrees of separation. I can only get this work because of, I know this and that. So a lot of that was a big challenge for me. And, being brown, quite honestly, there's not too many of us out there doing this type of work, right? We might dabble in it. We might be on Instagram. We might take some photos, but we're not doing this professionally, or we're not doing this as a living. So I think, being very tenacious and being very persistent is the only way. It's not an easy life. I think you have to be really honest with yourself to say, what does my next 3 to 5 years look like? You have to make some sacrifices. You have to be away from family, or you have to miss this birthday party or miss that event. And you have to go network, or you have to go do these other things that require this business to thrive. So a lot of it is really making sacrifices and being honest with yourself and saying, this is the life I chose, and I need to make these sacrifices. If that means you go cross country to a city that is very expensive, that is very tough, that is very cold, you do it. Because
how was it for you? What did you have to do really? Because there's so many theories and Instagram, social media provides this picture perfect view of people. You know, they showcase success. So,
Right.
and that success, overnight success, could be 10, 20, 30 years in the making. So, and that story completely is missing. So every aspiring designer, photographer, they have this just one image in mind, and they don't really know, very surprised sometimes what they really have to do to get there. So what did you have to do to get there?
I had to go to therapy, right? I had to, I joke, but there's some seriousness to it. I had to make sure that you have to, the biggest thing that I would recommend that I personally had to do is I had to find a community, because this business is very lonely. And to do it, I'm already a lone operator, right? So you see in the bottom here, it says photographer at WonderLoft. That's an art space studio that my business partner Tatiana and I, we opened up in Brooklyn very recently. So really excited about that. But the biggest thing is finding a community. I live in New York City, and if you, without a community, without a group of people that you're connected to, it is very, very lonely, and it is very, very difficult, and it's depressing, to be honest, right? The curated Instagram success things that you see, and now it's on TikTok, you know, that is maybe 10% of the journey, right? The other 90% is being stressed about invoices, not getting paid on time, being stressed about getting clients, actually being stressed about the creative direction and all the other things that's involved, dealing with personalities and egos. And to be honest, like, look, I mean, this is a predominantly white industry, as is most industries, right? Like, that's just the reality. Most industries are predominantly white, right? It just so happens that this one community of people have all the talent in the world, right? Apparently. So I have to overcome that somehow. And I cannot, because I don't have the connections or whatever, I can't make excuses anymore. I just have to do it, right? Like, you just have to, at some point, do it, especially if this is the life you chose. So having a sense of community, having a group of friends that are other artists, and being surrounded by that, I think organically feeds into your creativity. So that's the first thing, is that I would align myself with other artists and try to have a friendship, a circle, maybe get together once a month. It doesn't have to be super crazy. It's just, you know, maybe go for a drink or a slice of pizza or something and just have a conversation. You know, it doesn't have to be, it should just be about the relationship. You're trying to build a relationship with others that is meaningful, that is powerful, that is honest. And it's not about, hey, do you have work that I could do for you? That's not the goal. The goal is, how are you? You know, what are you doing? And these are conversations that you have to ask, and you have to have those type of, you know, one-to-one dialogue with a bunch of people, and have that. Again, I use community often, but it is true. You have to build that community. For me personally, that's what I had to do. Eventually, you know, the first 2 years is pretty tough, but I think afterwards you end up building enough of a friendship and enough of a circle of trust that you could start, everything just kind of starts snowballing. You know, when you're around other artists, you're also learning things from others, to be honest, right? Like you're seeing how they operate, you're seeing how they work, you know, and you borrow little bits from everybody. You know, you're borrowing this from this person, you're borrowing this from this person, and you're sharing what you know to others as well, right? I'm friends, fortunately, with photographers that are 1,000 times better than me, right? And they have been doing this some have been doing this for 20 years, some have been doing this for 3 years. And I borrow from both sides of the spectrum. And that has been very meaningful for me personally.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for your honesty. It's so important to be that honest. Are you influenced by opinion of other people?
A great question. I used to be so much. Oh my God. Well, not really. Let me clarify. I used to be influenced in the sense that, like, I used to think imposter syndrome is a real thing. Okay. I used to be worried, like, am I good enough? Is this worth it? Like, am I an artist? I didn't go to art school. Am I an artist? I don't know. Maybe I'm not, or maybe I'm just trying to fake it till I make it like everybody else. Those are questions that and by the way, some of those questions I still ask myself. It is something that I still ask myself. I'm not denying that. My friends, when if they see this interview, they're gonna be like, you still do that. You still ask those questions. True, I do. Some of it. But early on, I totally used to be influenced, like, if somebody said, oh, you should have done this or you should have done that, I don't like this image. And I'm like, well, what don't you like about it? I didn't have the confidence to ask, what didn't you like about it? I would just take what they say at face value and say, oh, okay, yeah, maybe this is terrible. I should have done better. But I knew deep down, like, okay, well, there was something that was fundamentally wrong. Like, why am I listening to you? Like, your opinion on this, being an artist, it's a double-edged sword. On one hand, you have to hold yourself to a standard, right? You have to hold yourself to a standard. If my standard that I fell in love with was a Lindbergh, and I will never be Peter Lindbergh, I know this, and that's okay. But if my standard was that I fell in love with this was the composition and the lighting and the subject matter and the storytelling that Lindbergh did or Helmut Newton did or whatever, if that was my standard, then I need to make sure that my work is to a standard that is respectable to that degree. That is one. But at the same time, the other hand is being an artist means you can experiment with shit. I experiment with my wardrobe. I experiment with, my look, my art, I experiment with lighting on every shoot. Like, I want to do this and I want to do that. There's some consistency in the way I like, but for the most part, I'm experimenting. And that is the beauty of being an artist. If I wanted to do the same shit every day, I would be stuck at an office doing the same shit like everybody else from 9 to 5, right? It's the same exact thing. But I am benefiting as an artist by being able to experiment. So to answer your question, and I'm giving you a long answer, but, I think for me, yes, I was definitely influenced by others in the sense that, like, am I good enough? Well, damn, like, I don't have enough followers. Like, I'm, all my friends are taking photos of Vogue, and I have some friends that are doing photos for Harper's and all this other shit. And I'm like, man, am I good enough? I don't know. I moved to New York. I got this bill. I got rent. I got New York expensive. I've got like almost no money. Like, what the fuck am I doing? These are the questions that percolate through my mind. And these are questions I guarantee everybody has that are doing the same journey.
Yes.
And you really have to, again, build that community of positive people, because not everybody's going to fuck with your work and not everyone's going to like your work. And that's totally okay. Because for the most part, I don't need if I meet 100 people, I don't need all 100 people to like my work. I just need maybe 1 to 5 people to like my work. And those 5 will tell others and they'll tell others, and it'll just become like an infectious disease that just spreads. Right. And that is my goal, is out of 100 people, maybe 2 to 5% will like my work. And I am okay with that. If more likes it, great. But I know that at least I was honest to myself. This is the way that I wanted to shoot it. This is the way I wanted to tell the story. And, the naysayers will say what they want. When you're a young artist and you're a young photographer, it's very easy to be influenced by who did what and what happened, especially in social media. It's like dating, right? It's like dating in New York, for example. Like, you're all, that 25 to 30 group, all your friends are posting on Instagram, oh, I'm getting engaged, or I'm doing this engagement shoot and that engagement shoot and this and that. And everybody's, doing couples trips or traveling all over. And it's easy to let that affect you. And like, oh man, is something wrong with me? Like, why am I not doing this? Or why don't I have this relationship? Is something wrong? It's not you. It's just, this is all the shit that, gets curated perfectly to present to you. You have your own journey, whatever that journey may be. And that's okay. And for me, that is the come to Jesus moment that I had to have, where my journey is going to be my own, and I will tell my story my own way. And it's not being rebellious. It's just, it's okay to take the road less taken. That's okay.
Absolutely. Well, I'm a huge believer that we should compare only ourselves to ourselves yesterday. And that's the only comparison or difference that we need to see or, be influenced by. Have you made difference with yourself?
Yes.
From yesterday?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Like as an artist, has your work gotten better?
Right.
Are you a better person, not just artistically, but as a human being than yesterday? Is your mental state better? Are you healthier? Are you doing things better? Even when I look at you, your career over the last few years, you've gone through a few iterations, but for the most part, you've stayed consistent. Asi, has been consistent to who she is at her core since then, at least when I first met you. So, that's stuff that is quite meaningful, right? I mean, it's, you're an artist in your own way,
Absolutely. So what do you deem most important in your work?
What do I deem most important in my work? I think what I deem most important is the connection I have to the artist and the subject. I think my style is very cinematic. My style is more documentary / storytelling, as well as cinematic. There's a specific old, I guess, Hollywood look that I'm trying to add modern flair to. That's what inspires me. But obviously, for me, that I'm most proud of is the relationships I have with my clients, to be completely honest here, right? Everybody that I shoot, whether it's whether it's a model from an agency that hired me to do a shoot for them, or it's a commercial client or what have you, it's almost always centered around that relationship. That relationship means a lot to me. It's something that I think transcends my work, because that relationship will be here forever. And my work hopefully will be as well. But I think, having that relationship be honest and be truthful, there's a trust factor, right? There is an intimate relationship between the photographer and the subject, whether there's 20 people on set or it's just us two. It doesn't really make a difference. In order for me to get the work that I need to get from my subject, I need to have that trust in that relationship. And I don't have a lot of time to make it, by the way. If I'm meeting them for the first time, I maybe have 5 to 10 minutes of just conversation, and I have to build that trust relatively quickly. So that's something I'm quite proud of, is that I think for the most part, everybody that I've worked with, they've been, good customers, repeat people that I've consistently worked with ongoing.
Interesting. Is being photographed a transformative experience for the person who is being photographed?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think so. I think whether, look, the professional models, they do this for a living. So I think for them, it's a little bit different, right? They are, but even for them, they are constantly testing themselves. And by the way, professional models, they are true artists. They are real artists. And that job is not easy. So anybody that thinks that this job is easy, it's very ignorant, and you're completely misguided in your thinking, because being a professional model, or even being an aspiring model with an agency, or even not without, that shit is very tough. Okay. Just let's get that out the way. But being photographed as an individual, totally. It's such a strange feeling. It's one thing to take my phone and take a selfie, right? That's like, okay, everybody does that, right? Like we're in selfie culture. Do I like it personally? No, not really, but it is what it is. But being photographed by someone like me, we find all the nooks and crannies of your imperfections, right? That automatically is intimidating, because this person is seeing all my imperfections. Because, what you see on Instagram, the light is designed in a way where all those imperfections are kind of hidden. And a lot of those filters are covering a lot of that shit up, right? And with us, we do retouch. Yes, I do retouch for sure. That's part of the commercial job. But when we're shooting, it's such a different type of dynamic. We're shooting you at your rawest, at your most, vulnerable level. And that is such a profound experience for everybody, especially, even artists, even if you're working in the creative world, whether you work at a creative agency or you work as a photographer or something, like even with you, if I were to photograph you, there is a sense of vulnerability, even though you and I have known each other for several years and you may trust me, there is a sense of vulnerability there. Like, okay, well, Taurat, I trust you. Yes, but I want to be photographed this way. And I have to make you feel safe. I have to make you feel heard. But I also have to do my job. And that job means I am trying to tell your story visually in the most truthful way possible, while also making you look powerful and strong and beautiful and all of those other words. And it is quite a profound relationship and something that I don't take lightly. Whenever I get clients, for example, if a client hits me up and they're like, I recently had a client hit me up and they were like, hey, I want to do this nude portrait for myself. And it's something that I want to do just for myself. And, she's an actress. And she said, hey, I'm only interested in this. This is kind of what I'm thinking. I trust you and I want to do this. And that, for one, I feel flattered, right? I feel honored that you trust me to take such an intimate portrait of you. But more importantly, now I have to make you look so powerful. And I have to find a way to tell your story visually in the most sincere way possible. And quite honestly, we did the shoot. It was beautiful, and I loved the images, and she loved it. But yeah, that was those trust factors and those conversations I don't take lightly. The relationship, again, I've mentioned relationship a few times already, but that relationship meant a lot, right? She trusted me based on our relationship to take this portrait of her, and it's something that I don't take lightly at all.
Absolutely. Wow. Super interesting. This is so interesting. Well, what are the biggest pitfalls for aspiring photographers to avoid?
That's a great question. I think the biggest pitfalls for aspiring photographers to avoid are probably, first one is you really have to stop comparing your work to others. Personally, I was guilty of it myself. I think every artist does this, whether you're in music or you're a chef or a model or photographer. I think everyone does this to a degree where you're comparing your work to others. And I think that's a very toxic and it's very difficult to get out of that habit. You have to stop comparing yourself to others, and you have to start saying it's not jealousy, by the way. I don't think it's jealousy. I think it is a sense of insecurity. I think it's feeling like you're not good enough or you're not doing enough, because to your earlier question, with Instagram and social media, everybody's looking at everything from this picture perfect rosy lens online. So you're naturally interested in comparing yourself to them. And I think that's a very difficult thing to get out of, especially if you're young or you're a younger artist. Stop doing that, but also be true to yourself. What is it that inspired you to pursue this work? Why are you doing this work? How did you get into this, and what inspired you? And once you hone in on that inspiration, then the next step is, how do I borrow from that? It's okay to, by the way, try to recreate those work. Like if I see an image from, I think one of my earlier work, images that I saw of her, I was like, oh man, there's this Avedon shot that I fucking loved. I was like, all right, how do I recreate it? Well, I can't get an elephant, but I could try to recreate this lighting setup, and that is okay. I totally stole it. And then eventually, once you perfect that, then eventually you start adding your own wrinkles to it. All right. There's a fine line between completely copying another artist and also adding your own wrinkle to it. When you're starting out, you don't know what you don't know. So you figure it out. You're slowly you're borrowing from this person, you're borrowing from that person, and borrowing from here, but then you're adding your own wrinkles as you go along. And that's totally okay. I think the hardest thing for an aspiring artist to do is really not compare to others, but also remind yourself why you pursued this and why you're doing this, and really stay true to that. that honesty is very, very difficult. And it's very challenging if you don't have, again, a community around you that inspires you or at least positively reinforces your work.
Wonderful. That's such an amazing advice. I wanted to ask you about your studio. I remember you mentioning that it's you wanted to be a safe space, and that I thought that was so interesting that you said that. Can you tell me a little bit more about it?
Yeah. So many years ago, I met this incredibly wonderful human being at a shoot. But yeah, we opened up an art studio called the WonderLoft. It's a safe space for artists to create. We're catering to the emerging artists. We're catering to people that are right before they take off, right in that pre-growth stage of their career where they have a community, they have a connection to a group of people that are interested in their art, and they are looking for a safe space to create whatever their imagination is. We can help put that together. We provide them a space, and we create something for them to be able to, we give them a space that's safe, that has a lot of natural light. Obviously, because we're photographers, light is very important to us. So it's a way for us to, allow our friends in across New York City and other places to have a safe space at a fair price that they can rent and create whatever they want. And it's something that we're quite proud of. It's ongoing. It's something that we hope is going to be something that we do for indefinitely. But right now, I work out of there primarily. I bring my clients there. Clients rent it from us. We've had everybody from birthday parties and corporate clients to artists that are releasing an album release party or fitness classes, or people that are doing. We have requests for authors that, hey, I'm an author. I'm going to do a book release party. Can we do this? So all types of communities. If you need a space, that's what we provide. It's an honest, safe space.
Oh, it's fantastic! My God! So you bring community now into your space. That is amazing.
That is exactly right. Whereas before I was hunting a sense of community, now I'm actually bringing a community to us. And I've met some amazingly talented artists. It's fascinating. I mean, the people that I'm meeting now just through this, I mean, there's just so much talent. I am very fortunate. I live in New York, and it's something that I cannot undersell. I'm so fortunate that I live in New York. I'm so fortunate that I'm from New York originally. But just being around the type of people and the creative minds that we have right now, and the friendships that we've built through the studio, it's been worth every penny.
Oh, wonderful. So what is your big vision for the future?
I want to get even better than, whatever I did last year doesn't really matter anymore. Whatever I did 3 years ago definitely doesn't matter anymore. So for me, it's like, how do I get better? The only way I'll get better is by working with people smarter, more creative, more challenging. They ask better questions. They do more interesting work. And that is my goal this year, is to align myself with those type of people. And that's kind of that's my vision board for this year and next year too.
Wonderful. Well, I wish you all the best. You're doing a fantastic job, and I'll be sharing your images everywhere in the video and in the article for Lingerie Briefs magazine, because your work is absolutely amazing. It's transformative.
Thank you. So yeah, no, this has been great. It's been fun for sure.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, life should be lived as play.
Yeah.
So having fun is a huge part of it. Well, thank you so much for your for being you, and for being so responsible for your work always. And it's been absolute pleasure. And I think this interview really sheds light on the entire journey with all its, ups and downs of becoming an editorial photographer. So thank you so much.
Yeah, it's been a very long and, challenging journey, but it's been great. Thank you. Thank you, Asi. Appreciate this.
Thank you so much, Taurat.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
If you find the content useful, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel to see more videos from the Intimate Talks interview series. I'm Asi Efros. Thank you so much for watching.